Cool.
Wait, really? I didn't watch it, so I don't know. So it was an absolute birthday yesterday. I wasn't here.
Next game in the playoffs, bro.
Wait, we were?
No.
What?
What about?
I thought you were cool.
I texted you.
Okay,
Yeah,
Dominic's
bro.
here, Manny Buseling's here, Joey Cass,
I don't know, last one.
Caitlin,
More like on a Badska.
Bryson,
And really loud.
Liv's here, Kayla, Dawson is here, Jack is here, Spencer.
I still remember when I went to Nina, it was 4 hours away.
Every time she was this, it rubs. It wasn't
By now, you should be done with a good faith attempt at either two paragraph papers or 1 3-paragraph paper where you've summed up the views of Hofstadter and Lefebvre as far as why the U.S. entered this venture. That's where you should be. And I will check it in as far as Google Classroom and enter it as a score of you either did it or you didn't. 1 or 0. Any questions on that? You'll get the next part today, and that will be due a week from today. Okay, first we'll talk about the second major wave of immigration into the U.S. The first wave was the original Europeans who moved to the colonies, set up the original 13 colonies, and the original nativists were the Native Americans. Now that we've progressed generation after generation, the descendants of the original European immigrants consider themselves nativist. And now who's coming over to the United States, and how would the nativists respond? For those of you writing that Blue Book essay, I'm giving you historical information that you might consider using in your Blue Book essay. Okay. Chart which shows from 1880 to 1930, where did most European immigrants that came to the U.S., where did they come from? And you can see that the original immigrants were mostly from Northwestern Europe, right? Norway, Sweden, Britain, Spain, France. Now, look, Italy, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Russia, Germany, and then to a lesser extent, some of the others. More Southern or Eastern European. And that matters because even when in Europe, the Western Europeans looked down upon the Eastern Europeans. Even during the Cold War, there was a sense of, we're better than you. Sort of a snobbishness about it. Also, ew, Catholics. How loyal can they be to their adopted country if they're loyal to some funny guy who wears a big hat? Ew, Catholics. How loyal can they be if all they're doing is open the door? Oh, can't you just please open the door? I need spraying deodorant soap. Oh. Plus they follow that little guy, Lucky Charms. Nobody likes me brownie parts. You know, the Lucky Charms guy has an evil twin brother. He's the one that makes the brownie parts. See, the Lucky Charm guy, he makes the marshmallows, but he's an evil twin brother, and he makes the brownie parts. No?
Yeah.
There used to be a cartoon.
Yeah, like I know.
Mad TV. Oh my God, it was hilarious. Okay. And then this line graph here shows the number of immigrants, and there should be years down here, but there aren't. Sorry, but this reflects over here is 18 80, and right here is 1930, and the peak is right around 1907-ish, 1908-ish, right around the time that we're looking at, right? And again, I'm going to suggest to you that it is not a coincidence that immigration's peak happens at the same time as the industrialization of the US. For those of you writing that first essay question, one of the reasons why was a steady influx of cheap labor. Okay, and it is not a coincidence that this happens at the same time as very active government, the progressive era, which we're slowly sneaking into. What I've been doing over the last, when we've had school, over the last several days, is introducing to you that there were lots of problems, lots of perceived problems. And the previous unit, there were also lots of problems from these annoying things called states and the federal government's attempt to fix those problems. And now we have lots of problems from these things called monopolies. And how is the US government going to fix it? And we have other problems too, like Catholics and other immigrants. What are we going to do? And where'd they go? Where did they move to when they came to America? When they saw the Statue of Liberty? And by the way, anyone know when does that little folklore become reality? When did the first immigrants look to New York and see the Statue of Liberty?
After it was given to us from a gift from France.
Yes, and thank you for answering a question I did not ask. I said when. Anyone know? Actually, I don't even know. But there's this imagery that, oh, it was there from day one. I think actually it was more like 1930 when it finally went up. I could be wrong there.
I'm gonna look it up.
When was the Statue of Liberty actually completed? Yeah. I mean, they built it in France. It was really cool. They built it in France piece by piece and then sent it over and they assembled it. It's pretty sweet. Anyway, when they came over here, where'd they go? Where did the Italians go? Well, let's think about that. Any of you ever, yeah, go ahead.
1886.
What? No.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm wrong.
Construction started in September
Oh, wow.
1875.
Shoot. Okay, no, I am. So think about that. Any of you have known relatives in another country? Like you know them, you have a connection with them? Yes? Okay. Have you ever happened to go visit them?
Yeah.
You have? Okay. If you were to, what country? If you don't know.
No, like England, like
Okay, let's go there. If you were happened to move to Europe, wouldn't it be reasonable that you'd move there? Why?
Salem.
Yeah, because they live there. When the second Italian showed up in New York, what do you think one of his first questions was?
Where's the pizza?
Oh, well, in a way, that's another way of
Where's my
saying,
people?
yeah, right. Where's the first Italian? And they would create these conglomerates of like people. That's called a little. There would be a little Italy in New York. Or if any of you have been to San Francisco or New York or LA, there's a Chinatown, right? The Chinese arrive and say, where are the other Chinese? I want to be with my people. And of course, the concern there is if you continue to do that, are you assimilating, right? Are you becoming an American? You're creating a new homeland in a way, and the xenophobes, the nativists don't like that. No, stop it. If you moved to Little Italy, you'll speak Italian. No, this is America. Speak American. Okay, so they moved to the cities, and that is because that's where the other people like them were, for the most part. The problem is that puts strain on cities, right? When you move to cities, okay, now we have to educate these people, so we need more public schools. Now we have to pick up their garbage, so we need sanitation. Now we need to provide hospital services. We need to provide police protection. This is a strain. This is a strain on cities. They need to provide these services, these government services to these people. These people are poor. They don't have the tax money to pay for these things. So, okay, now we have a new problem. all these people moving in. And then the second question is I've sort of addressed, and that is, are they assimilating? And a convenient way of describing what does assimilation mean is, when people move from spot A to spot B, is it permanent? Or is there this desire to go back someday? Well, if there's this desire to go back someday, you're not assimilating. It's a temporary situation. Or do you bring the homeland to you? Right? You bring your culture, you bring your language, you live with your people. You're not assimilating, right? Assimilating is when you leave your old country, you come to your new country, and you leave the old country behind. Right? You adopt the traditions and the cultures of the new country. Were these people assimilating? I, by the way, am not saying that this is right or wrong. That's not my job. Okay. Now the concern here is these are Catholics moving into a country of Lutherans. Or Christians who were not Catholic. Right? So there was a question of loyalty here. Another way of the Great American Melting Pot is simply another way of saying assimilation. Right? You left your old country. You're coming here. Blend in. Speaky English. Leave your unique cultural heritage where it came from. Become an American, whatever that means.
Big Macs.
Super Bowl, football, English,
Hot dog.
sports, America. F
You
yeah.
technically own it all.
The other thing to mention here is, why were these people coming over? Well, there's two reasons to move from point A to point B. There's, in essence, two reasons. One, point B is good, and two, point A is bad. There's bad stuff going on, right? What's going on in Europe, late 1800s, early 1900s, is they're about to go to war. Exactly. The conditions are ripening for World War I. Right?
They kind of both read.
Well, they're definitely both right. Yeah. They're in a way they're two sides of the same.
Yeehaw Railroad.
Okay, fine. Right. Exactly. Right. So there's bad stuff going on in Europe. It's a powder keg, right? These countries are about to go to war.
On the list was the powder keg.
The powder keg. You were exactly right. The second one, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, is the powder keg. You're exactly right. And we will talk about it. Very good. Any questions? Let's rock. So let's go back to this problem right here. All these people are moving to cities. You're putting a strain on the cities. How does the federal government step in and say, we're here to help? Right? So you're looking at two examples of something. This is in Chicago. Not sure where this one is. So let's meet Jane Addams. Is that name familiar to anybody? You're in the right track. She actually started a thing called Hull House, and this is Hull House. And what is Hull House? Hull House is a house for these people that move to cities. They don't have a dime on them, and where do they go? What do they do? Now, one thing is you could find your relatives and live with them, and that's a distinct possibility. But what about those people that they don't have relatives? Where do they go? A temporary house. You go work. We'll watch your kid. Right? Daycare. It's welfare. We'll help you to get on your feet. And you're looking at, I imagine what this is this is a room in this house. That's what I think is going on, because that is a daycare center. And women, immigrant women, when they moved to the cities. Why? The economic opportunities are there. Hull House is an example of a settlement house. It's where these people would move to, hopefully temporarily, if family was not an option. They didn't have relatives in the big city. Now, who paid for this? these wealthy owners of monopolies, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Morgan, Jane Addams would go and ask, hey, you're rich, can you help us out?
PR.
Definitely PR, and does anyone know the other term? When you're really, really rich and you find your cause, you are very good, you are a philanthropist. Philanthropy, right? What's your cause? For Bill Gates, I think it's eradicating AIDS in Africa. Eradicating AIDS in Africa. Attempting to get rid of it. Yeah. And that's a journey, right? Okay. So again, I would argue that there's some stuff here you might use in either essay, actually. Okay, now let's look at the nativists. So again, the nativists, that term is interesting, right? Because you could argue, no, you're not. You're simply the descendants of the original European immigrants. You're not nativists. Let's get over that little hurdle, okay? That's what they call themselves. So let's take a look at this. So try and look and see what the message of the person that made this political cartoon, what are they trying to convey to you?
Catholics are bad. That's what I see.
Catholics are bad.
Wasn't that like what they stand against? They didn't like all the new Catholics. It's got like the cross and then a bunch of like skulls or something like that.
Okay, so we do see some skulls down here. You're right. Okay. Anybody else want to take a shot? Well, on the left, what are we looking at? It's supposed to be an accurate depiction of this thing called the Statue of Liberty. She's a female. You'll notice she is a female. She's holding the torch. Does anyone know what the words? Right, she's holding a book. What are the words? Will you look that up? It's something like, give me you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, yearning to breathe free, or something like that. In other words, go ahead.
So, like, the Statue of Liberty, like the words, she's like standing for like the poor people, like we should help them.
Very good.
And then the Christians, because there was like that reverend and he was like, no.
Very good. Okay, good. All right. So there's the actual Statue of Liberty, whose message is, are you poor? Are you in a bad way where you live? Come here. We welcome you. And then there's the nativist view of what America is, right? This is a view of what America is. This is another view. Are we the land that welcomes you're tired, you're poor, who cares what religion you are? Nope. We're the land of Jesus, not counting Catholics. Catholics were actually called papists back then. You're not loyal to Jesus. You're loyal to some Italian who wears a big funny hat. You're a papist. You're loyal to the Pope. Right? And built upon the struggles of inferior peoples, whether they be slaves or whoever. This is another version of America, the nativist version. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's not on the book, but like it's engraved. Just the Independence Day is on the book.
Oh, is that what it's on?
Yeah,
Okay.
but her statue is like her quote is, "Give me you're tired, you're poor, you're a huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempted, tossed to me." A lot of old words. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
Very good. Right? So,
Yeah.
welcome. Welcome. And the nativists are saying, no, you're not welcome. No, that's not what America is. Right? And that's an interesting question. What is America? Are we a Christian nation? Or are we a nation where there is a definite wall between church and state, and who cares what religion you are? Are we a white nation? Or are we a nation of, what difference does it make what the color of your skin is? Who cares, right? And I would argue that both stories have been perpetuated by various sources. The nativists were anti-fill in the blank. Now, I specifically said anti-Irish and anti-Chinese, but really, I could go back and say, no, the nativists were anti-Italian, anti-Eastern European, anti-Russian. From here on down, it's not so much, except the Irish, yeah, anti-Irish, because they're Catholic, right? They're not anti-British. They're not anti-Canadian. How can you be anti-Canadian? They gave us hock. Let's find some actual specific examples. This is historical evidence you could use. Those of you writing this essay. We have the creation of actual organizations, like for example, this one, the American Protective Association. Sounds nice, doesn't it? They're here to protect America. They were nativists. They were a group that encouraged the notion that America is a Christian nation, not Catholic. We're a white nation. And so if you don't fit those two things, and when I say white, actually the term was WASP. We are a WASP nation. Later on, Hitler would rephrase this as Aryan. It's the same thing. Aryan, WASP, same thing. Anyone know what it means? Each letter stands for something. Is this the first time that some of you have ever seen
Yeah.
this term, as in not mean bees?
Yeah.
Okay.
White.
White.
American.
White.
I'm gonna guess the last one is Protestant.
Protestant, very good.
Um,
2 for 2. Okay. So right here you've got sort of a race, and this is more of a culture, and this is a religion, which is culture, I guess. Anglo-Saxon. Who are the Anglo-Saxons? Very good.
Original.
Northwestern Europeans, right? We are the descendants of the original immigrants, even though you're not, but that's what they told themselves. White, Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon simply means Northwestern Europe. White people, real white people. Italians are not white. At the time, they have been since swallowed up into the white team. So have the Irish. Irish, 100 years ago, were not considered white. You're not white, you're Irish.
They're like the whitest people, though.
I would say pale. Since then, they've been accepted. Catholics have been accepted. Now, who's not on the winning team? I mean, today, and I would argue Latino are not seen as part of the winning team by some, right? Hitler would call these people Aryans, which is interesting because he was Catholic. Hitler was baptized Catholic. Sorry?
What did the P stand for again?
Protestants. Protestants are Christians who don't defend a funny-hatted Italian. You're a Christian, you believe in Jesus, but you're not a papist. That term was used intentionally to say, you're not loyal to Christ, you're loyal to the Pope, some guy who lives in Rome. How can you be an American? We have a president, you have a Pope. When John F. Kennedy, the only Catholic ever elected president, when he was running, that was one of his main hoops he had to overcome. People would ask him, like, what if the Pope orders you to do something? Don't you have to obey or you're going to go to hell? And Kennedy would say, like, nope. But they didn't believe him, right? Some people didn't believe him. Okay, let's keep going here. One of my favorite laws ever. A law in 1882 that prevented the immigration of people who were convicted of a crime. Lunatics were not allowed. So some of you in this room, idiots, you were not allowed if you were an idiot. So, okay. And then people likely to become what are called public charges.
So how did they like test this?
Right. I think I don't know, I'm assuming a lunatic actually had a kind of a specified definition, whereas today a lunatic is something that you and I would call someone who's nuts. Right, something like that. An idiot. Again, today idiot means, it's an insult, but I'm guessing in 1882 there was a term, there was a specific meaning of the word idiot. You were an idiot, that meant something. For example, I'll give you another one. Dumb, D-U-M-B. When my grandfather, who died maybe 15 years ago or so, when he was young, he was called dumb. But that didn't mean he was like lacking intelligence. It meant he couldn't talk. He was dumb, couldn't talk. He was deaf and dumb. He was deaf and dumb. Now, the fact is he was deaf, he wasn't dumb. And I mean that in both terms. He was not dumb and he was not dumb. He could talk. I heard him talk all the time. No, he talked funny. His dog was dibbit. Dibbit, 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 dibbit. But that's how he talked. But he talked. And I understood him, kind of. Okay, another law at the time, something called the Chinese Exclusion Act. And yeah, same. You've seen something. There are more examples. The Gentleman's Agreement was an agreement. It was an executive agreement that Teddy Roosevelt made, where basically Japanese were not allowed. Okay, all of these are examples, historical examples of the nativist cause. This is a visual representation of another law. This was called the Emergency Quota Act. Emergency Quota Act, and there were two of them. One was in 1921, and the second Emergency Quota Act, 1924. So again, Emergency Quota Act, or EQA. Emergency Quota Act. For some reason, I don't have it on here. That's kind of stupid. And so the Emergency Quota Act, and it said something like this. If you're thinking about using this as historical evidence, maybe look it up, because I can't remember exactly. But what it said was, it was actually kind of clever in a devious way. Sort of like poll taxes and literacy tests were clever, but very sad, right? Same thing here. So it was something like this. What the United States did was they looked at the census of some previous year when the US was dominated by WASPs, right? And they said, all right, however our country is made up ethnically, 3% of the people that are of the same ethnicity can come now. Okay, and I see some of you are confused, so let's just pretend I'm not sure this is the year, but let's just pretend the year is 1840. So go back to here. Picture 1840s America. Civil War is 20 years down the road. Were there a lot of Italians in the US in 1840? No. Were there a lot of Austro-Hungarians? No. Were there a lot of Russians? No. No. A lot of these people? Yeah. Yep. From Germany on down, there's a lot. 3% can come to the US. 3% of the current makeup of the US ethnically can come to the US in 1921. So you just told me there weren't a lot of Italians. I don't even know the number, but let's just pretend there were 1 million Italians in the US in 1840. I doubt it was even that. 3% of 1 million is 30,000. Only 30,000 Italians were allowed to come to the US in 1821. Sorry? Well, relatively speaking, though, it's not a lot of people. Yeah, you're right. Well, this is of course over. You are looking, there it is. This is the effect of the Emergency Code Act of 1921. Look at that. Boom. And then this is the effect of the 1824 one. 1821, 1820. 1920. 1920.
Yeah, that's what.
the 1921 Emergency Code Act and the 1924 Emergency Code Act let's put it this way, they worked. They severely restricted immigration. Now, again, I would encourage you, if you think, that sounds like a pretty good piece of evidence that I would want to use, and I do think it is, look it up, because parts of what I said here, I can't remember what the census year they went with for the original one, and I can't remember, one of them was 3%, and then 3 years later, they lowered it to 2% or something like that. They wanted it to work even better. Yes, well, after, yeah, you're right. Yep. Okay. This is a visual of the Emergency Code Act. Here are the number of people that want to come to the United States. This funnel is the Emergency Code Act, limiting the number of people who actually get to arrive here in the US of A. The only way to handle it, says this political cartoon. 1921, of course, is after World War I. Think about the shape Europe's in after World War I. It's where the war was fought, right? Devastated. A whole lot of people wanted to come to America. A basically unscathed country after World War I. It's true World War II, too, right? After World War II, we're good. How many battles took place on American soil? 2. Hawaii, I wouldn't call Hawaii a battle, kind of. And then, one of my favorites, the Japanese bombed an island off the coast of Alaska. By accident, they attached a bomb to a helium balloon. It dropped in Alaska, so they got it. Sweet move. Okay. Here is another visual of the American nativist attitude towards what they saw as the new immigrant. Okay? So let's contrast. This is a WASP. This person is a WASP. This person isn't. Okay? Can you see what this says?
No.
I can't really read it either.
Desegregation.
No. I mean, it's a barrel. No, that's the important thing here. It's a barrel. Barrel of what?
Vodka.
He's got disease and poverty.
Alcohol, disease, and poverty. Very good. Let's just address the alcohol. I am telling you, it is not a coincidence that alcohol prohibition happened at the same time as attempts to limit immigration. That's not a coincidence. It is causal. It's part of the same thing. We want to prevent these people and their culture. And you know who drinks? Irish. You know who drinks? Russians.
That one barrel says that.
Look at what he's packed. He's packed his bag called poverty and his other bag called disease. Let's throw some AIDS in there and, leprosy. And he has a hat on. Anyone know what that hat is?
It's a Jewish.
Very good. It's a Jewish yarmulke. A Jew. Ew, anti-Semitism.
No wonder why he's.
Right? I'm not sure what his scarf there says. The hypocrisy here. There's the golden lamp, the golden dome. And here's the message. Hey, walk in. We're a free country. Welcome.
Is he holding this?
It says on the wall. Right? Hypocritical. What?
Is he holding it?
Oh, yeah. You stink.
And there's
Right?
Anna.
The dirty European. Right? The hairy, grimy, sick, drunk anarchy. He's an anarchist.
I thought that was a baby head for a little bit.
Anarchist, and here's something that I'm going to take on right now. When I throw out the word anarchy, what does it mean? Okay, and so that's usually what people say is, anarchists, they believed in no government. They believed in chaos. No. No, 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 no.
They believe in like governing themselves.
Right. They believed in other ways of governing. Like, for example, in Italy, the mafia. The Mussolini. We can credit Mussolini. One of the things that Mussolini did in Italy was he took on the mafia. The mafia in Italy was real. And the Italian government tried to create a coherent thing called Italy. And one of the groups that resisted were the mafia in Italy. No, you're not going to put your rules upon us. We'll rule ourselves. That's anarchy. Anarchy is not the total absence of government. Anarchy is the absence of the state. The state as an organizing system. Or the nation. We'll organize it other ways, through family bonds or tribes. That's what anarchy is. Is that welcome in the United States with our federal system, with our national government and our state? No. That's not. Okay, very good. Okay, any questions on any content that we went over? Okay, take a mental break. I'll start when the big hand is up with 3. Stand and stretch. If you need to go get a drink, that's fine. I will start talking in 3 minutes.
We should tell our team.
Oh, so they're
We also have to like it was for the game super
Dude, I have to go to work next week with the baby though. What? Yeah, so I get the baby down here like Wednesday and Thursday. They don't, but like. Yeah, I know. So is Chris. No. I was like, well, you look like you're pregnant too. So gonna say that. You can tell him I told
The
you.
year before I became a teacher here, there was a storm so bad that
So the lab
kids
house.
stopped. They had to sleep.
They're pirates.
doesn't stop until 8
Yeah.
p.m.
We were driving.
No, I think
an hour and a half.
Why is Antarctica
There's
in
that.
the ocean
Baby, I have to pull over.
Ah. You probably.
What?
You probably.
I don't know, it's the map.
I imagine it's just to make it so you can see.
French Polynesia.
Judy came.
Have fun with that. Probably.
Hello. So like all the guys get to go do that, so. I can go sleep in my house.
Okay. As promised, the next thing, here we are, right? We finished that one, and now we need to accomplish this 213. So that is a week from yesterday. Something called document analysis of primary documents provided later. Due. Well, here they are. I am now providing them to you.
So
Don't be overwhelmed. This, for those of you who are now confused, is part of your third quarter paper. This is not part of the Blue Book essay. Although, you could, there might be some arguments here, there might be some economic arguments that you might use if you are wanting to argue how we became an industrial giant, the desire for markets might be. Okay. So don't be overwhelmed by this. Let's just keep it simple. All it's saying there is in 1 week, we will do a group document analysis. Now, there are 7 documents. What I'm going to do is assign all of you all 7 documents. I don't want to do that. We'll simply assign each one of you 1 of the documents. Okay? Pretty easy. What these are arguments for why the U.S. went to war against Spain. So these might fit in beautifully with what Lefebvre or Hofstadter have to say. These are simply other sources, different people that have something to say. So when I assign you a document, here are the questions that I want you to answer, so maybe jot these questions down. So 1, who is our speaker? Who is the person making the argument? And I mean that on 2 levels. I want the name, but I also want, who is this person? Is he the president? Is he an important minister? Is he an important thinker? Who is this guy? Or organization, whatever. So speaker / credibility. And then the second question is, what is the argument he is making? Why did the U.S. go to war against Spain? And so the actual reason. And then finally, what letter? What letter are you giving?
What?
An S, or a P, or an I, or a C, or an S-P-I-C. Spice. Which letter? Oh, okay. It's also.
I remember you talking about it, but I forgot the name.
Listen, everyone, we are in the world of spice now. Okay, spice flavors. Oh, nice. Spice flavors all are right during this year. All. So the argument being made, is it a? Well, let's just give an example, right? We've got document 1 from a guy named the Reverend Josiah Strong. And he wrote a book called Our Country. And let's just read that wonderful document and see the kindness that flows from his thinking. That was said sarcastically. It seems to me that God, with infinite wisdom and skill, is training the Anglo-Saxon race. Mr. Strong was a nativist. It seems to me that God is training the Anglo-Saxon race, Strong meant Americans of British or German descent, for an hour sure to come in the world's future. This race of unequaled energy, we white people have unending energy. Awesome. Why do I get tired when I run that? With all the majesty of numbers and the might of wealth behind it, the representatives of the largest liberty, the purest Christianity, the highest civilization will spread itself over the earth. This powerful race will move down upon Mexico, down upon Central and South America, upon the islands of the sea, over to Africa and beyond. And can anyone doubt the result of this competition of races will be the survival of the fittest? Good God. Hitler's friend, right? Oh my God, we're going to spread the whites and we're going to get rid of the others and the world will become white land. What letter would you have given this? Yeah, it's C. It's a cultural argument. It's dripping with religious arguments. Or social, right? There's some race in here. So S/C would be fine. Why do we want the Philippines and Cuba? Spread whiteness. That's a historical argument. And the Philippines too. We kept them for a long time. You're right. Okay. So that would get an S/C. Well, there might be some political arguments, right? We've got democracy. Let's share that gift with others. There might be some economic arguments. We want the Philippines and Cuba for its markets and its resources. Okay. So give it a letter.
What's I?
I is, the letter means international, and what that means is, do we want an empire? I actually means imperialism. Do we want to become a great nation? Do we want to join that exclusive club? Great nations have empires. Well, okay, then do we want that? So there might be an I. Okay, I've done document 1 already, so we can skip that. So 2 through 7, right? Ready? 2, 3. Do you know what's going on?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I got 7.
No,
Oh,
I did not.
I know.
You'll let me know.
Oh, I know.
By next Wednesday, be ready to meet with your fellow numbered people and sort of come to a consensus and then share with everybody. Okey-dokey. You can get this done before class is over. There is a key to do by the end of the hour today. Yep. There's 2 of them.
One was done.
By the end of the hour, the end of the day.
Well, technically it was due 53 minutes ago. But I will not be able to chat at all until about noon.
What'd you do yesterday?
Like, you actually have to like hold your head over the because it hasn't.
You're done by the end of it.
I did the kiosk 2 weeks ago.
Let's
I forgot.
Okay, so this is my first